success shouldn't feel this exhausting. If you're winning on paper, but burning out behind the scenes, you aren't failing. You're stuck in a psychological bottleneck called a hurdle of stop. I've been there. On the outside, things look great, but I was secretly burning out, convinced I was just lucky, and waiting to be exposed as a fraud. I realized I didn't have a business problem. I had a mindset block. Whether it's imposter syndrome, perfectionism, or fear or failure, these aren't just feelings. They are growth bottlenecks. Identify your specific hurdle and get one immediate action step to regain your momentum today. Go to tuepodcast.net/quiz. That's tuepodcast.net/quiz to take the 3-minute assessment and get your report now. Salutations, School Believer. Do you have a dream of becoming an entrepreneur, but don't know where to start or even what to do? Where can I gather information quickly about what's in my zone of genius? Don't worry, School Believers. I got you covered. Go to tuepodcast.net/AI prompt and check out an amazing set of AI prompts that will give you ideas, information, and articles to help you get across that start line. Once again, go to tuepodcast.net/AI prompt to get you started now. Good luck, School Believer. Hello there, School Believer. Hey, if you're anything like me, I am just so tired of going from screen to screen to screen, trying to figure out my analytics for all of my social medias and trying to figure out where I can put any and all my energies to get as much reach as I can. Well, I think I've finally found the solution. Elementary analytics. That's right, elementary analytics. Now, at a single press of a button, I can see all my social media analytics from Google to Twitter to Facebook, all my important information all on one screen. All on one screen. Can you believe it? And if you really needed to, you could print charts for any possible meetings you might have. If you want to learn more about this amazing program, go to tuepodcast.net/EA for a 14-day free trial with no credit card needed. That's tuepodcast.net/EA for a 14-day free trial. Try it right now and see what it can do for you. Undiscovered Entrepreneur, episode number 22. Me and you and number 22.
You need to know what it is about you and your message that's unique and differentiated from the market. And spend some time really thinking critically about that. And you're going to have resistance to it because you're going to think, well, I don't want to be put in a box. I want to do lots of things. I can't just boil myself down to somebody who helps this type of person accomplish this type of very specific thing. I'll get bored talking about that for years. But that is the opportunity. That is what you need to do in this day and age to break through, because it's noisy out there.
Welcome to the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, the podcast where brand new entrepreneurs come to life and could quite possibly be discovered. Join me, DJ Scoob, and the rest of the Scoob Believers as we help these new businesses become a reality. And now, away we go! Hello, Scoob Believer, and welcome to episode number 22 and number 3 of my 3-part series, the final part of my series for experienced entrepreneurs. And this experienced entrepreneur is probably one of the greatest that I've come across since I've gotten started. This gentleman has taught me just so much in my entrepreneur adventure, and I originally met him in SPI Pro. He was part of the SPI community and was once part of the SPI team. But I really am excited to have him on my program and be in the most honorable part of my 3-part series. Today we are talking to none other than Jay Clouse. Jay Clouse, let's take a listen. Congratulations, Scuba Believers, and we are here again with another amazing entrepreneur. But we're doing something a little bit different today. Today we're actually have somebody that's, I'm really excited to have him on my show. I've actually followed him a little bit in SPI, and I met him in SPI Pro, and he's such a great teacher. I learned so much from him, but I got him on my show. I'm really excited to have him. And we have Jay Clouse. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Jesse. Excited to be here.
All right, thanks. Now I have a really kind of serious question to ask you. Okay, you ready? All right. Are you a scuba believer?
I think it's pretty obvious I'm a scuba believer.
Oh, look at that. He's got a little puppy dog. So for those of you that's watching on my YouTube channel, and he's holding up a stuffed animal. I mean, if in the podcast, you can't see it, obviously. A little stuffed dog there. It looks almost like the coloration of a Scooby. Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. Look at him. That's okay. All right, Jay. So what I'm going to do here is, I know who you are, and I've been following you, and I love what you do, but I'm sure there's a couple of people that's not sure who you are. So if you could do me a favor and tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your entrepreneur adventure, and how you kind of got started.
Yeah. So my name is Jay. I'm an online creator who studies today's best online creators. My main content is the podcast called Creative Elements, where I interview really high profile creators, people like Tim Urban, James Clear, Cody Sanchez, Tori Dunlap, and talk to them about how they are really winning this like creator game today in 2022, and talking about actual specific strategies and tactics that are working for them as creators today. And that flows through to my email newsletter, that flows through to my membership community, which is my main paid offering at this point. And it's really great. I support other creators. I study the best creators. I synthesize what they do really well and help other people do the same.
All right. That's awesome. You're doing so much great work out there, Jay, and we all really appreciate it. Now, if you can kind of go back to the very beginning, how did you actually get started in, what was the thing that got you started in wanting to study creators? I know you're a creator yourself, but I mean, what really got things started for you?
Yeah. Well, the podcast launched in March 2020. And that was, after I'd kind of decided I really enjoy speaking to and learning from other creators. Because at the time, what I knew was I want this lifestyle of being a creator. And I had some really good relationships. I was able to reach a lot of people who had pretty high levels of success, but I didn't have a good reason to collaborate with them really. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll start a podcast because I love podcasting, and I'll use that as an excuse to talk to some of these high profile creators that I'm actually able to access and reach. And so that's what I did. And I would say that started around 2020, and I was beginning to do my own creator business probably a year or so earlier. I was starting to develop and distribute my own courses. They were based on freelancing at the time. Still exists. It's called Freelancing School. But I think a lot of my career has been an expanding of how I understand the concept of entrepreneurship. Because in the beginning, I thought that entrepreneurship was simply high-tech software companies. And as time has passed, I realized, okay, freelancing is entrepreneurship. And as more time passed, I realized, okay, content is entrepreneurship. And so it's just been kind of an evolution like that over time.
All right. That's fantastic. And I love how you kind of learned your way through it to understand that it's not just one thing that's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship has different types of avenues and places you can go. It's not just one type of thing. It's all kinds of different types of things, whether it be the podcasting like you're talking about, or content creation, or putting things out like that. That's fantastic. And I'm glad you were able to do that. So as you're moving along and things are going for you, in your first year of what you're doing in your entrepreneur adventure, did you have any particular pitfalls or problems that really kind of stick out in your mind?
One of the things that was a challenge for me, sorry, looks like I'm coming a little hot here. One of the things that was a challenge for me was cash flow, because my first paid service, the thing that I was doing to earn money, was facilitating mastermind groups between other entrepreneurs. And that was pretty successful. That was going really well. The problem was that was a 12-week program, a 12-week experience. And I didn't think about the actual calendar year. So as one of those cohorts wrapped up, I found myself in October and I realized, oh, for me to run another cohort, I'm going to go through Thanksgiving, through Christmas. There was just no way that I was going to be able to sell this 12-week experience through the holidays and through New Year's, which put me in a really awkward spot because I hadn't done a very good job of budgeting for myself. And so here I am sitting there with 2+ months before I could really sell this program again and needed revenue like now. So that was one big mistake, was mismanaging my cash flow. At the same time, I wasn't really thinking about taxes in an appropriate way. I wasn't saving a good amount for taxes. Luckily, that first year, I had the first 4 months with an employer, and they had been saving for taxes from my paycheck. So at the end of that year, they had oversaved to such a degree that I didn't really owe much. But taxes, cash flow, like the finance, boring business aspects of things were an issue for me early on.
Yeah, I kind of find myself in a similar situation as far as that goes. I really have to be careful about cash flow and where money comes from and where it's going to. I am terrible with numbers. Just at this point, I'm like, if I make any money, which I haven't made any yet, but if I make any money, I just put half away and hopefully that's good enough. So that's about as technical as I'm going to get with my bookkeeping. But it's definitely something to keep in mind when you are putting together things like a mastermind or a paid product or anything like that, to make sure that you put stuff away and keep up with the taxes and things like that. That way it doesn't bite you in the butt in the end. So yeah. And what did you just end up hiring somebody or?
Well, I do have an accountant and a bookkeeper now, which has been wonderful. But at this point, I've implemented a finance system called Profit First for my business, which is really, really helpful. Basically, I have 4 different buckets that twice a month I allocate all of the income I have into these 4 buckets in certain target allocation percentages. These are weird big numbers, but stay with me. So 25% of every dollar that comes in goes to taxes. 30% goes to operating expenses for the business, 40% goes to owner's compensation, and 5% goes to profit. So any money that comes into my business, it goes into one single checking account that is my income account. And then twice per month, almost as if I am an employee of my own company, I do these allocations to say, okay, all the money that's in the income account, 25% is going into the tax account now, 40% is going into owner's comp, 5% is going into profit, 30% is going into operating expenses. And that's what I do to ensure that I am saving enough for taxes. And I know that I'm generating profit all the time because I'm literally allocating 5% to profit.
Right.
I'm paying myself appropriately. And you can change these percentages. The one percentage I don't change is tax. 25% over the last few years has proven to be enough withholdings based on my deductions at tax time to cover my tax needs. But some months I'll say, you know what, I have a big project coming up that I'm going to need to purchase, the help of a freelancer or something. I'm going to put 40% into operating expenses this month and only pay myself 30%. Or, you know what, the business had a really great month. I'm going to pay myself 50% and put 20% towards operating expenses because I don't have any big expenses coming up. So you can move some of those things, but that's given me a lot of peace of mind to know that I'm continuously building profit. I'm always paying myself and I'm always saving enough for taxes.
Fantastic. So you hear that, Scuba Believers? If you're worried about taxes, things like that, this is a great way to be able to make sure that you put enough money away for yourself, and a good way to make sure that you pay yourself. That's important too. I mean, you want to be able to have that for yourself, just so you have something to say, hey, I did this and this is for me. If you don't reward yourself for your work, then it kind of doesn't make it worth it after all. So you want to make sure you reward yourself for what you do. All right. So I'm going to ask you kind of a selfish question, Jay. So I'm going to apologize to you ahead of time for this. Now, we met in SPI Pro, but I mean, even before I got into SPI, I know who you were because of Pat's podcast, and he talked about you. And he had a couple of your shows. So can you tell me the story about how you met Pat and how that came
Sure.
about? That's probably one you've done a couple of times. So
Not a whole lot, honestly.
Really?
The mastermind program that I was telling you about, through that experience, I met Pat's business partner, Matt Garland. And so he had a front row seat to what that community looked like. And when Pat and SPI were looking to build and launch SPI Pro, their membership community, they brought me in as a consultant to help give form and shape and launch that membership program. So I met Pat through his business partner, Matt, because of the work I had done with that mastermind program.
All right. That's amazing. Thank you for telling us about that experience. I've experienced Pat for a pretty long time myself. Avid listener. If I haven't talked to him about my podcast enough, I don't know what. I think I've mentioned him like in every single podcast. But that's good to hear that how that story worked out for you. So I'm kind of curious, since we're kind of talking about Pat, and Pat's kind of one of my virtual mentors. As you were going along in your entrepreneurial adventure, have you had any kind of mentors that you'd like to say that pushed you forward, that made you do what you will do now?
I think I had more mentors earlier in my career than I do right now, to be honest. And it's something that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about lately. Because in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, mentors really made it happen for me. My first mentor, his name is Will Schroeder. He owns a company called startups.com. He hired me as an intern when I was in college. And that really opened my eyes towards software and entrepreneurship generally. And I worked with him in 3 different roles over, a 5-year period. That was really, really, really incredible and really impactful to me. Over the last few years, obviously working with Pat and SPI, there's some mentorship there, but as a creator, I haven't had the same degree of mentorship that I think I really want and need. There have been other people along the way before I was really doing the business to the degree that I am now, but I knew I wanted to be a writer and blog. James Clear was a mentor to me. And this is before he published Atomic Habits. He's gotten a lot busier since publishing the book. But he lives in Columbus, Ohio here. So we would meet up fairly regularly and talk about writing, and he'd give me some direction and some insight. Yeah, I would say that's kind of it. I've had a lot of friends and, people that I collaborate with, but I actually think that I'm missing mentorship to the degree that I would like it these days.
All right. Just so you know, Jay, especially after meeting you in SPI, you were definitely one of my mentors. There's the changes I've made from the beginning of my podcast to now have definitely been inspired by your direction. If anybody's listened to my podcast from then to now, some of the changes I've made in niching down, some of my intros, outros, and things like that, Jay was actually one of the people that suggested some of those things. So at this point, I would really like to publicly say thank you so much, Jay, for all your mentorship that you have for me so far.
I think it's pretty powerful what we can do in terms of mentorship virtually these days. Like some of my best mentors are people I've never met. So I don't necessarily count them as mentors when asked, like, who are your mentors? But I've certainly modeled after people like Seth Godin. Brian Harris was somebody I've modeled after for a long time. Who else? Ryan Holiday. These people I've never actually had a real conversation with, but the amount of recorded content out there that you can learn and get very specific anecdotes and insight and ideas from these people is pretty incredible. So it does, it means a lot to me that I can be a mentor to somebody like you, even if I don't realize it. That's a pretty incredible thing and a pretty incredible time that we can do that right now.
Yeah. And it's so funny how that all came about from what I can see, came about through COVID, which is really strange to say that something that devastating, sometimes something that big that happens in the world makes us have to make these advances. And then we realize that we really can use those things for other things later on.
Totally.
And Pat's been one of those type of virtual mentors for me. I've talked, I haven't talked like this to him, like I'm talking to you right now, but I have been in his AMAs. I have talked to him on my Twitter space a couple times. That's been amazing, but it's good to have mentors, whether they're virtual or not. If anybody can find somebody they can emulate to move them on in their entrepreneurial adventure, do it. That's more helpful than just about anything else.
I think it's a great call.
All right. So I know you've been in your entrepreneurship for quite some time now, but in hindsight, do you have a failure that you're most proud of? And why are you proud of that failure?
Failure I'm most proud of. Let me think about this for a second. There certainly are. My failures are usually pretty quick. Like it's something that I pretty immediately say, yeah, this isn't quite working. The biggest failure that comes to mind for me, well, a lot of times my failure is also like I'm trying to get picked for something, get chosen for something, and it just doesn't happen, whether it's an award or a sponsorship or a position or something like that. Like I've had countless failures like that just at this point, they just roll off my back. Like, yeah, I took a shot, didn't happen. I don't count them as wins. It's like a don't count your chickens before they hatch situation. I'm very rarely counting chickens. So when they don't hatch, it's like, okay, well, that's fine. I didn't count that chicken anyway. Biggest failure that comes to mind for me was in college. Really early on, I joined a satirical newspaper. It was like The Onion. It was a print version of The Onion specific to Ohio State is a way to think about it. And we had a guy, his name was Stu, incredible writer, incredible leader. He made that newspaper just so good, but he took so much on himself. He got interested in starting a new publication that was a little bit more political. And so he left that newspaper and we didn't have our leader. Absent of a leader, I decided to step up and co-lead that next year. We never printed an issue. Didn't print a single issue when I led that effort. And now that satirical newspaper, which had a bunch of history at Ohio State, doesn't exist anymore because I killed it. Which is a big, like, that's a pretty big failure. Like I killed an Ohio State institution. But you learn from it, that taught me a lot about leadership as much as it did about publishing, because we didn't fail to produce stories. Like our writing staff continued to write stories. But what makes a publication like that work is being really timely and relevant. Like a lot of the funniness of it is just how well timed it is. So it would be stories written about a current event or a current like actual news headline. And if you don't print that in time, a couple months pass and it's not really funny anymore. So it goes to waste. And our writers didn't love their work going to waste. Not something that you enjoy. Like, oh, I made this thing and nobody ever saw it. That sucks. So it taught me a lot as a leader, taught me a lot as a creator, and still haunts me a little bit, to be honest.
Well, it may still haunt you, but at least you learned something from it. And that's the most important thing when it comes to failure. Failure is not always just about throwing your hands up in the air and saying, I give up. That's it. I mean, taking the failure and learning and growing and moving it into the next entrepreneur adventure or whatever you do in your lifetime, that's not a failure. That's just a learning curve, or just learning something new and different. And you know what to do the next time that thing comes around. Also, I'd like to talk about how you had that mind shift at the very beginning about the failure, where you had a failure, but instead of being upset about it, like you were talking about earlier, how you had this thing where it was like you were upset that you weren't getting noticed and accomplishments and things like that. But at the same time, you kind of want to think about, well, good for these next people, good for these people that did win the awards. I like having a mind shift, a mind think like that at the same time. I mean, it's hard to do, especially in situations like you were talking about. But in the end, you really want to be happy for the next person that did win the award.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it still sucks. And there are periods of time where I think like, why not me? And I can be bitter and whatever. But, I think of it much more now as just a numbers game. Let's use some good sports analogies. You got to take shots on goal. Not just taking shots, because if you take aimless shots that aren't even anywhere near the goal and you don't make a goal, like, of course you're not going to, because they're not even good shots. I focus on taking good shots, taking more of them, because you take more good shots. One, you're going to get even better at taking shots. Two, some of them are going to go in. It's just the numbers game. But if you're playing that game, you also recognize that a lot of times, even good shots fall short. They don't make it happen. And when you have those expectations, it's a lot easier to deal with the fallout when it does happen, when it doesn't quite work out.
Right. Exactly. All right. Thank you for that. That's great putting that together there for us. I really appreciate that. So, and your vast accomplishments, that's all, folks. Let me try that again. And your vast accomplishments that you've had since you started your entrepreneurial adventure, is there one accomplishment that you're really super proud of that you like to think about on a constant basis?
This is probably something that I don't do enough of, to be honest. I don't take enough time to appreciate those things. But there are several. At this point in my career, I've sold 2 companies. I've invested in other companies. I'm an advisor to some companies. Like, these are all really positive things. The biggest accomplishments that I think about these days are more of the life achievements that I've made. Like, I'm married. I found a life partner. My life is way better now. We bought a house together. We just bought a Tesla Model Y. Like, these are really cool parts of my life that the entirety of me gets to enjoy. Business achievements, they come, they go. There's a lot of them for some periods of time, and there's none of them for some periods of times. What you realize is achievements are very fleeting. You think that this thing is going to be the best, most important thing you could ever accomplish. Then you accomplish it. And then you say, well, what do I do now? And you move the goalpost and you go towards something else. So, what I'm most proud of is kind of at the high level, I've been able to construct a life for myself where I'm living the lifestyle that I want, and I'm not selling my time to somebody else to do it. That's the biggest thing to me is I've built a machine that I enjoy running, that rewards me financially, that gives me the life that I want to live. That's really hard to accomplish. And when I get frustrated and things aren't moving as fast as I want or doing the things that I want, I lean on that. I remember that. And I say, hey, idiot, 3 years ago, you would have looked at anybody with this life with a ton of envy. Just because you have it doesn't mean that you can't still aspire to it and be happy about it. So yeah, the life that I lead and the machine that I've built overall is probably my happiest or my biggest achievement.
All right, Jay, that is super inspiring. Thank you so much for that story. That's fantastic. And I'm so glad we worked out a way for you don't have to trade that time for money or money for time or anything like that anymore, where you could actually sit down and accomplish something for yourself and know that you didn't have to, look behind your shoulder and see if the boss was staring at us and saying, what are you doing? Or anything like that. You are your own boss. So you're not trading for that time for money anymore. You're doing what you want to do. And you're making great accomplishments and strides in doing it. You bought a house for yourself. You bought a Tesla for yourself. That's amazing. That's in there somewhere in the future for me too. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't pay it all cash. We're financing a Tesla.
No, well, yeah, yeah. It still works though. You're still in your driveway. That's the important thing. So here's a question that I really like, especially when I talk to my experienced entrepreneurs. If you have to give some advice to somebody who's looking to first start into their entrepreneur adventure, like literally just getting started, what advice would you give them? What steps would you have them take?
You need to know what it is about you and your message that's unique and differentiated from the market. And spend some time really thinking critically about that. And you're going to have resistance to it because you're going to think, well, I don't want to be put in a box. I want to do lots of things. I can't just boil myself down to somebody who helps this type of person accomplish this type of very specific thing, I'll get bored talking about that for years. But that is the opportunity. That is what you need to do in this day and age to break through, because it's noisy out there. You need to be really clear and make really clear for other people who are just zooming past you in their day-to-day life. Is this person for me? Is what they're putting out there something that can help me? If you aren't really clear on that and they can't identify yes or no, it's a no. They need to very quickly grasp what it is you're saying you can help with, or what it is that you say you do, and be able to definitively say, that is for me. I'm going to opt into following along with Jesse, following along with Jay. And that's hard, because you have to choose, like, what is the very specific thing that I can help a very specific type of person accomplish, and focus on that for a period of years. It sounds really boring, because it kind of is. And it kind of is by necessity at this point. It's something that even to this day holds me back a little bit, because I serve creators, still pretty broad. If I were to say I help newsletter creators build membership communities, that's incredibly specific. That would be a lot easier for people to say, I want that, or I don't want that. And I'd probably grow faster if I did that. I'm lucky that I have a pretty big body of work and a pretty sizable audience at this point, so I can get around not making that very specific trade-off. But if you're starting from zero and you don't have an audience, and you don't have a body of work, you've got to get real specific for at least a period of time. And then as you build trust with people who come to you for a very specific reason, then you can start to branch off into other things that you're interested in. And some people will follow you on that journey too, because they trust you and they want that. But in the beginning, if you're not being really specific, you're not setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. That's why a lot of times you'll hear in a lot of my other podcasts too, I'll talk about niching down to get to that one point where you know exactly what you're talking about, and you can be that authority in that particular niche. And you want to make sure it's a niche that you like, that you want to have fun in. That way, when it is kind of repetitive a little bit, you don't mind it so much, because it's something that you love to do. Just like me in the podcasting, I didn't know I really liked podcasting until I started podcasting. And then I realized I loved it so much that I just wanted to keep doing it. And even though it's kind of repetitive, the editing's kind of repetitive, and I'm talking to, some people about kind of the same thing, I really love doing it because I learned so much. And you got to realize too, when people are looking at you, you only have about 7 seconds to make an impression on anybody. So make sure you make those 7 seconds count.
Yeah. It happens real quick. People are zooming around you in their day-to-day life. And if they hear what you have to say one time, like, that's kind of a miracle. So you got to be pretty targeted when they do hear that, for them to be like, ooh, yeah, I want that. That sounds good.
There you go. That's exactly right. Okay, so one thing I really like to do with all my guests on my show is talk about goals. Now, I always ask my guests for a 6-month goal that they have for themselves. So in the next 6 months, where do you see you and your entrepreneur adventure?
Well, in the next 6 months, I see my podcast building a YouTube audience. Right now, it's been audio only. I'm launching the first video versions of the show next month in mid-July. And I'm really optimistic about that. But I don't actually expect it to take off for several months after beginning to publish. So 6 months from now, I'm hoping to see some really positive indications that that video effort was worthwhile. I will have finished a rebrand of my newsletter and my community by then. And I will have also finished a really big project based on a quiz that I'm building. So all that to say, I think 6 months from now, I will be making the best content of my life, serving creators, written video. I think my name and brand will be much more closely coupled and tied to the word creator, so that as this creator economy and creator ecosystem grows and people are talking about who are the leading voices within it, I really want to see myself in that conversation 6 months from now, which is ambitious, maybe foolish, but we'll find out.
There's really only one way to find out, and it's just to do it and see what happens, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got video product, we got video podcast, rebranding, the quiz. Are we still working on the quiz, or is that live?
I'm working on the quiz. Not live, probably won't be live until late August. We just kicked that project off last week, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Honeymoon, getting back in the swing of things, kicking things off, doing it all right now. But man, I really do think that 6 months from now, though, a lot of these systems will really be humming along.
All right. That's awesome. So when you have that quiz up and running, would you mind sending me a link to it? That way I could put it in the show notes, because I'd really like to have it for anybody that might want to, participate in that.
Of course. They can, it will be at, okay, this is the scoop. Jesse, I'm telling you this early. The URL will be creatorscience.com. Creatorscience.com.
I'm writing it down. Okay. Wow, thank you for that. You hear that, Scoop Believers? We got a scoop, something from Jay. Thank you so much, Jay. I really appreciate you letting us in on that. That's fantastic. That's exciting. All right, so we're kind of wrapping things up a little bit here. Now, if you could just go ahead and if anybody's, listening and want to get a hold of you and maybe, talk about that paid community or anything along those lines, how do we find you? Let's hear it.
Find me at jayclouse.com, and on social media, I'm at Jay Clouse. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, I'm on all of them.
All right, and if do you have like a link to the paid community if you wanted to get into that, or is that kind of part of it?
I do. You go to joinccc.com. The name of the community is Creative Companion Club. The short link is joinccc.com.
All right, fantastic. All right, Jay, thank you so much for being a Scoop Believer. I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm so excited to have you here, and you had a lot of great information for my fellow Scoop Believers. Thank you so much, and it's been an honor to have you on my show.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. Excited to listen to it when it's out.
All right, Scoop Believers, hang in there for the wrap-up, and thank you very much. Okay, Jay? Good night, everybody. All right, that was Jay Clouse, ladies and gentlemen. He just had so much great information, didn't he? He had information about taxes. He had information about mentors, and his story of his failure was just amazing, and what he actually learned from that. Take away any information that you can, learn from it. He has just so much to offer. Look into that paid community that he's offering, because I really think you could benefit from anything that he has to say. Make sure you look in the show notes for any and all contact information for Jay Clouse if you want to see what he has to offer. All right, I know I haven't done this for a little while, but I'm going to give you a little update on my speaking engagement that I'm working for Chris Brogan. I've kind of had a little bit of a setback again. I reached out to the company that said they might be interested in helping me put together the speaking engagement, and I haven't heard back from him. I emailed him twice, still haven't heard back from him. So I've kind of hit kind of a stump area for putting this speaking engagement together. Just it's been real difficult with some family things that's been happening, and time restraints. It's really getting kind of difficult to do more searching for somebody that wants to help me out in paying for the speaking engagement. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep trying to find somebody to help me finance the speaking engagement. I haven't given up. Just kind of hit kind of a lull here. So, but I haven't given up. I just want to make sure that's very clear. Also, I know I've said it a couple times already, but I still haven't done it yet. That solo episode I'm still working on. I don't know why I keep putting it off, but I do. It's, I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable. Even what's funny is I do kind of a solo thing at the end of every show, but it's not really what I'm looking for as far as a solo episode for myself. So I'm going to keep working on that. And it looks like I'm going to have to drop SPI Pro from my itinerary. It's just kind of gotten too expensive for me to keep. So I'm just kind of letting it go at this point. I really learned a lot while I was in there and met a lot of great people, including Jay. But I had to make a choice between continuing on with my podcast or keeping SPI Pro. I had to make the decision, and I decided to keep the podcast. So with a heavy heart, I am kind of hanging up SPI Pro for now. And I'm hoping that someday soon, when I do start making some kind of income from the products that I'm working on, like the puzzle method, or just listener support on my Patreon, that I will be able to get back into SPI Pro again. So to anybody that helped me and made contact with me in SPI Pro, I just want to officially say thank you very much for all the help that you've given me. So at this point, if anybody really liked the show and liked the 3-part series that I put together, I'd really appreciate it if you went online or if you went to your favorite podcast listening program and put in a 5-star review for me, put in an actual, review for me if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Anything like that would be helpful for me to learn how to provide a better podcast for you. If you want to reach out to me directly, you could always contact me at DJ Scoob 2021. That's SKOOB on Twitter. You could reach out to me via email at uapodcast2021@gmail.com. I would really like to hear how much you liked or disliked the 3-part series that I put together. Would you like me to do more of them? I would like to try to put more together if you'd like to hear them. My next couple episodes I'm going to have is going to be more brand new entrepreneurs that are just getting started. And I'm trying to kind of piece them together. So like you're going to hear a couple of particular types of new entrepreneurs. That's what I'm trying to put together now. I haven't quite gotten the groups together yet, but it's definitely something to look forward to. Anyway, at this point, I just want to say thank you so much for listening all the way through. And hopefully I hear from you real soon. All right, Scoob Believers, thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Hello there, DJ Scoob here. And I just want to personally say thank you for listening to my program. I really hope you learned something. Tune in 2 weeks to listen to another brand new entrepreneur. And remember, I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. How do you say woman? Mujer.
Mujer. El niño, la niña.
The boy, the woman. Oops, the girl. Oops, it's close. How do you say boy? Niño.
Niño. Una mujer.
A woman.
Yo como, tú comes, él come.
Tú comes.
Yo como, tú comes, él come.
Tú
Tú
comes.
comes,
Él
él
como.
como. Yo como, tú comes, él come.
Oops, that's wrong.
Él comes, como. Yo como, tú comes, él come.
Tú
Tú
comes.
comes,
Él
él
come.
come.
Oof, that took some work.
Un hombre.
Un hombre. A man.
Tú eres un hombre.
Tú eres
eres
un
un
hombre.
hombre.
You are a man.
Una niña.
A girl.
Tú eres un niño.
Tú
Tú
eres
eres
un
un
niño.
niño.
All right. As a worker of 2 full-time jobs, running a podcast and coaching, every minute counts in my day-to-day. It's hard to be consistent in any of my social medias. And at this point, I cannot hire a social media manager. Pinnacle AI to the rescue! I've been using Pinnacle AI for a couple of weeks now and seeing big improvements in my outreach and consistency in all my social medias. Do you want to save time and increase your productivity too? Go to tuepodcast.net/AI for more information. Save yourself time and grow your brand. Try it now and see what it can do for you. Hello, Scoob Believers. Let me ask you a real quick question. How many cups of coffee have you had today? 3, 5, 7? And let me guess, you've got a Red Bull in the other hand just in case, right? Yeah, I see you. Now here's the truth bomb nobody wants to hear. You're not building a business. You're building a caffeine dependency. Listen, I get it. When you're grinding 12, 14, 16-hour days, you're building something from nothing. When you've got payroll to meet, investors to impress, and visions that won't wait. You need fuel. But what if I told you that the fuel that you're using is actually slowing you down? What if the very thing that you think is keeping you sharp is actually making you dull? Enter Rise Coffee. This isn't your grandma's mushroom tea. This isn't some hippie wellness trend. This is science meets performance. And here's what makes Rise different. Less than half the caffeine of a regular cup of coffee. But here's the kicker. You won't miss it. 6 organic powerhouse mushrooms, including cordyceps, what Olympic athletes use, and lion's mane, what Silicon Valley biohackers swear by. Sustained energy that doesn't spike and crash. We're talking smooth, clean power from morning to moonlight. Crystal clear focus without the jitters. Imagine closing the deal with calm, confident mind instead of the caffeine chaos. Gut health and immune support, because what's the point of building an empire if you're too sick to enjoy it? So here's the challenge to you. Stop borrowing energy from tomorrow. Stop running on fumes and call it a hustle. Stop wearing your caffeine addiction like a badge of honor. Real entrepreneurs optimize, real entrepreneurs adapt, real entrepreneurs win. You can't win if you're crashing at 2 p.m. while your competition is just getting started. Break the cycle. Head to risesuperfoods.com right now and use code PODNA15 for 50% off your first order. That's PODNA15 for 15% off. Try it for 30 days. If you don't feel the difference, if you don't feel sharper, calmer, more focused, more alive, then go back to your 6-a-day cup habit. But I'm telling you, we won't, because once you feel what real energy feels like, you'll never go back. Ditch the addiction, fuel your empire, and rise up. Rise Coffee, energy that builds, not burns.